Hello. Today we're going to talk about grouped discrete data. Sometimes you may have a data set whose values have very low frequencies, meaning that those numbers are not represented a lot of times. And a lot of times that this can make it difficult to study your distribution or the shape of your data to kind of tell whether it is symmetric or skewed left or skewed right. So, in order to help this out, it will be more helpful to group the data into what we call class intervals to compare the frequencies of the classes versus individual frequencies. All right. Your modal class is the class with the most frequency or the highest frequency, meaning it's going to be represented the most. We can produce column charts just like we did for simple discrete data, except the bars will go from the lower bound of the class to the upper bound of the class. So for this example, it says the number of students enrolled in the Applications and Interpretations SL course in 40 accredited IB schools were listed below. Complete a frequency table with the classes 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, etc. So that is what we want to do here. So under number enrolled here, we're going to have 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, and then we're going to have 20 to 24. So what we're going to now do is we're going to count off how many numbers are in between 0 and 4. So if we look at the first row, we have none. In the second row, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 numbers that will give us that frequency. All right. The numbers between 5 and 9, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 numbers. All right. All right. From 10 to 14, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we have 16 numbers here. And of course, if we make them as tallies, we'll have 16 here. And then from 15 to 19, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 numbers. And then from 20 to 24, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So now let's find our relative frequencies. So remember, your relative frequency is nothing but the frequency divided by the total amount that you have. So if we add this up, if we add 4 plus 6, we know that's 10. If we add the 16 and then the 14 from the 2 sevens, we would get a total of 40. So all I have to do to find the relative frequency is to divide each frequency by the total. So if I take 4 divided by 40, I will get zero point 0.1. If I took 6 divided by 40, I would get 0.15. If I took 16 divided by 40, I will have zero point 0.4. 7 divided by 40, and then I will have 0.175 for both of these. All right. So it says, what is the modal class of the data? What is the modal class of the data? So which class or which interval has the most frequency or the highest frequency? That's 10 to 14. It says, how many schools have more than 14 students enrolled, more than 14 students enrolled. So as you can see here, we have 7 and 7. So that means that we have 14 schools, okay, that have more than 14 students that are enrolled. The next part, D, says, what percentage of schools have between 5 to 19 students? So if we look from 5 to 19, we are here, which means that we have the 6 plus 16 plus 7. That gives us 29. And because it wants a percentage, we have to do 29 out of 40. And if we do 29 divided by 40, that will give us approximately a 72.5%. And the next thing they want us to do is they want us to make a bar chart. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make me an X and a Y axis. We know that the frequency is the Y values, and we know that the class is going to be the X values, aka the number that is enrolled. Okay, the number enrolled. Okay, so now what we want to do is we need to scale. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 different classes. So we can label the following. So I'm going to just label by fives here. So I'm going to say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So I'm going to label by fives. And then the frequency, the highest frequency that we see goes up to 16. So I'm going to label by twos. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. All right. And make sure that you are very careful when you are labeling, because your grids or your scales need to be even. So if we graph, this first portion here is saying that when you have between 0 and 4, so that means we have 4 numbers that are, or 4 students, or between 0 and 4 students enrolled, at 4 different schools. So if I go from 0 to 4, of course, 4 is right below 5. So I'm not going to quite touch 5. So this is my bar for 0 to 4. Then I have my bar for 5 to 9. There are 6 schools with that. So if I go up to the 6, starting at 5, I go over, come down right about 9. I'm not going to quite touch 10. Then I have 16 schools at the 10. So I go up to 16, and then I lower it right before the 15 because it's going from 10 to 14. And then we have 7 students, or 7 schools, that's between 15 to 19. And then I'm going to have the same amount from 20 to 24. Remember, there is a gap in between because none of the classes overlap. So this will be my bar chart here. Okay. So that'll be the bar chart. So now let's look at continuous data. So when we're dealing with continuous data, basically what we use it for is we use continuous data because we cannot write down an exact value when we measure the data that is continuous. That means that there may be some overlapping areas. So when dealing with continuous data, we group the data into class intervals of equal width, just like group discrete data. However, instead of creating a column or a bar chart, we create what we call a histogram. Okay, we create a histogram. And a histogram is basically a bar chart where the bars touch. All right. And the reason why we don't have any gaps is because there we is no break in the data. Okay. So when creating your class intervals, we always include the lower bound, but we don't include the upper bound. And the reason why we do this is to make sure that we avoid overlap. Okay. So now let's look at our example here. So it says the number of days spent on revision for a final exam by a group of students are as follows. It says make a frequency chart with 6 intervals of the data. So the lowest number that I see in this list is a 10, and the highest number that I see is 38. So I'm going to try to figure out how I can make 6 intervals here. So let's say if we start off going in 5. So let's say we start at 10. So we're going to have 10 is less than or equal to X, which is less than 15. Now remember what I said. You include the lower bound, which is why we have the equal to on the lower side, but we don't have the equal to on the upper side because you can't include 15 there. So the next one we're going to have is 15, which is less than or equal to X, which is less than 20. 20 is less than or equal to X, which is less than 25. 25 is less than or equal to X, which is less than 30. 30 is less than or equal to X, which is less than 35. And then we have 35 is less than or equal to X, which is less than 40. So those are our 6 classes and they are of equal width. I'm going by fives. So now let's tally them up. So we have how many numbers that are 10 to 14. Remember, you can't include 15 in the top one. So if I count from 10 to 14, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 numbers. If I look at my numbers from 15 to 20, not including 20, but I can include 15, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 numbers here. From 20 to 25, we have 1, 1 number. From 25 to 30, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 numbers. And then from 30 to 35, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then last but not least, from 35 to 40, we have 1. And actually, this should be 8 because I just crossed out a 34. So that should be 8. So we have 1, 35. So we have 1. And then we have 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 here. Okay. So if I add up all my numbers, we got 7 and 6 make 13. 1 and 4 make 5. 8 and 4 make 12. If we add all of those up, we will end up getting 30 numbers. Now, what you should realize here is that if you add up your numbers, they should be the same. So as you can see, we have 10 numbers in each of these rows. So 10, 20, 30. So I have 30 numbers total. So now let's find our relative, frequency. So relative frequency means we need to take the frequencies and divide it by 30. So 7 divided by 30 is going to be 0.233. 6 divided by 30 will give us 0.2. 1 divided by 30 is 0.0333. I'm putting all my answers in 3 sig fig. 4 divided by 30 is 0.133. 8 divided by 30 is going to be 0.267. And then we're going to have 4 divided by 30 again, which is 0.133. So now on part B, it says, how many students have spent less than 25 days on their revision? So less than 25 means that we need to be in these 3 classes here. All right. So if I add all of these numbers up here, we will have 7 plus 6, which is 13, plus 1, which is 14. C says, what percentage of students spent at least 30 days? Okay. Spent at least 30 days reviewing. So if we do 30 days or more, 30 days or more is going to be these last 2 intervals here, which means we will have 8 and 4, which makes 12. So we will have to do 12 out of 30. So 12 divided by 30 is going to be equal to 40%. That's the percentage. And then for part D, it says, what is the modal class? What is the modal class? Which class has the most? As we can see, the class that has the most is the 30 to 35. And then last but not least, they want us to construct a histogram. So once again, I'm going to make my frequency. And as you can see, we are going by 5s again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going by 10s. So, and the reason why I'm starting at 10 is because we technically started the X value or the number of days being 10. So what I'm going to do here, because technically if I start here and I label this as a 10, but then I go up to like 15 here, the gap between 0 and 10, and then the gap between 10 and 15 are not the same. So I'm going to put a break in my graph. That is that little thunderbolt symbol like this. That means you have a break in your you have a break in the axis, meaning that it's not quite the same width in between, just there. So I'm going to 15, then we have 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40. So I'm going to label these. The highest frequency that I see is 8. So I'm just going to go up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right. That's all I have to do. So now once I go up there, I am then going to label. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now let's start drawing our bars. So from 10 to 15, we have 7. So literally, I just draw a line straight up and down. 10 to 15. And that's my bar. It goes up to 7. Then I have 6. 6 is from 15 to 20. And remember, I'm drawing this by hand, so it may not be exact, but you should understand what's going on. All right. And then we have 20 to 25. We only have 1. So that goes here. Then we have 25 to 30, we have 4. So going to go up about right here. And then we have the frequency from 30 to 35 is going to be 8. So we can take this one up. And remember, it might not be perfect because I am drawing it by hand. And that's fine. If you have graph paper, it'll be a little bit easier for you. All right, so that's our bar here. And then we have 4 again, which would be here. So this is the way that I would draw my histogram. Okay. And remember, the numbers may not be exact. However, we can pretty much estimate to make sure our bars go up as high as possible. So this is how you would draw your histogram when you have our continuous data or continuous group data. So if you have any questions, please reach out to your teacher, and you all have a great day.